Whereas in France, I found like a lot of times where if I was if I had color and if I was a foreigner, somehow I'm not maybe trustworthy enough, or maybe somehow I'm like I would be always question mark. And also like for when it comes to how the paperwork goes and everything, even if I apply for everything on time and everything, like they would still make everything very difficult for you. I think also that's something we can learn from during the current times in Ethiopia with what's going on. I think we can definitely appreciate that. What makes Ethiopia special is that there are 89 languages and there are so many cultural dances. In France, there was a particular week where I was like visa-less, apartment-less, and jobless in the same day.
Oh my goodness!
Like, yes. So overall, work-wise, it was okay, and the salary is also decent. So it was work-wise, it was fine.
Then why did you come back?
Well, I think
for those who don't know, guys, she finally, after all this going to Asia and Europe, she decided to return to Ethiopia. And now, how many years back?
1 year.
Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I am Queen Desta, and today I am back again with Buna with Desta. And before you ask me about the Buna, I have a whole package that is Buna itself. I'm joking, we already took the Buna and we were like, let's have this conversation. And I'm excited. Today we have an interesting discussion because you're gonna get to know a lot of things. And in the end of this conversation, please ask me why I still don't speak Amharic, okay? Anyway, welcome.
Thank you, Desta.
Please introduce yourself.
So this is Blaine from Leza Amharic Tutoring. I'm glad to be here with you guys. And also after having lots of private Bunna sessions with Desta, I'm finally glad to be on Bunna with Desta and have a real live discussion with you guys.
Yeah.
Looking forward to it.
Wow, that's amazing. So you said dash tutoring.
Leza Amharic Tutoring.
So what does that entail?
So Leza in Amharic, like when someone speaks eloquently or articulately, we say this person lezallo. Lezallat, meaning this person has leza. So leza is like a flavor or like something with which to be able to touch people with the way you speak, with the way you do things, like so what the motto of leza is like ንግግሮን ለዛና ላብሰው, which is like let's give your conversation or let's give your language skills some leza, some flavor, the ability to hit the spot and connect with the people who speak the language.
Oh wow, so that means you teach people to speak different languages? Tell us about that.
So yes, I primarily focus on Amharic, and I see myself not just as an Amharic teacher, but I try to see myself as a cultural ambassador. So in the countries where I have stayed, I have always tried to promote the vision of the Ethiopia that I love, share with the people what I love about Ethiopia, and to try to help them see how I see Ethiopia, especially as Africans and as Asians generally. We are often misrepresented by the mainstream media, so I would like to give my own input of what Ethiopia is like, from a local's perspective. And besides that, of course, like I'm generally fond of languages. I speak 4 languages. I speak Amharic, English, Hindi, and French. So sometimes I also teach English and French besides teaching Amharic, but what I mainly focus on is Amharic. Yes.
Oh wow, amazing. Did you see, guys, why I told you that I need to be questioned why I still can associate myself with Amharic teachers but still not speak Amharic? Anyway, we'll get back to that.
I think you're finding your way already quite well with the Bunna. She's quite connecting, so she's so like, I don't need to learn the language yet.
Okay, you said in the several countries you've been to. Can you take us through that journey?
Okay, so I have lived, first I went to India and I have stayed there for 5 years.
Before that, Ethiopia?
Yeah, I grew up in Ethiopia. And then after that, I also stayed in France almost for 5 years. And during my stay in France,
After Ethiopia, you went to?
First, I grew up in Ethiopia and then I went to India for my higher studies, and then I came back and I went for further studies in France. And so those are the places where I lived, but during my stay in France I also got to visit like nearby countries, like I went to Belgium, Netherlands, Monaco, so those are some of the Greece, so those were the places I got
so
to
like
visit.
how many years were you out of Ethiopia?
10 years.
Wow. Okay, yes. How was that? How was the experience? How different was it?
Well, it's a very interesting. Like, so I think I grew up very protected, very shelled. So like, so it was very liberating and also challenging. Like to get out of that shell and get to learn about real life and be responsible as an adult. Like, be responsible for my life instead of having to wait for my parents to take care of things.
Ethiopian.
So I finally had to learn how to take care of things by myself and take responsibility and just own my choices. Like, you know, I just, because whatever choices I do, it will be my responsibility. So if something goes wrong, just learning from it, and if it goes right, you know, celebrating it. And especially during my stay in India, I had a lot of peers who were also from the same background, who also grew up very much protected, very much like shelved. So it was like a good, like a sisterhood that we could encourage one another, or that we could understand each other's like journey, and, you know, guide each other and be there for each other during that. So it helped me definitely come out of my shell and own my choices, own who I am, and you know, yeah. So that India especially was a very liberating experience. Yes.
Oh wow! You know what's interesting is I meet many people, and even those who have not even left like the African countries, most of the places that they aspire to visit or to go study is like the States, America, or like Europe, stuff like this. So I was really, well, I found it intriguing that you were interested in going to India. What inspired that?
For me, it started with the movies. I was, I think, 12 when I first watched a Hindi movie, and I just completely fell in love. I fell in love with the sound of the language, with the love stories, with how, like, just with the, like in Hindi movies, always like the heart wins, or the person with the purest heart, which is not always how the things work out in the real life. But like, so that would be like, if life was ideal, I think it would be probably like Hindi movies, where the right person, the person who's the most good-hearted, would win. And also the colors, the music, the festivities, it was just all very beautiful. I was just whatever I was looking for in life, like I found it in Hindi movies.
Oh, okay.
So soon I started speaking the language just from the movies. And
so you were speaking Hindi before you left? Wow,
yes,
that's interesting.
yes.
Impressive.
By the time I was 15, I was already speaking Hindi. And so, and then then I was like, I used to perform for different events at the Indian embassy. And then finally, when I finished my high school, I received a scholarship to go study in India. So that was like my dream place. So it was a dream come true. So that was how I ended up in India.
Wow, guys. It's currently raining, if you can hear some background noise, but
yes,
because
work with it, you know?
Unless we have like a storm, then we will consider.
Yeah.
But tell us now, after India, you're done studying. Was it easier? Do you, how did you get opportunities to represent Ethiopia, or did you meet other Africans in India, or how was that?
Yes. So I was quite active when I was in India. So first, so in my bachelor was at Pune University, so in the college where I was studying, so I was Miss International, and so I used to represent myself you know, in pageants, and I was also often the choreographer and also the showstopper for the dance. I was also the showstopper and part of the organizers for the fashion show of my college. And besides that, there was another institute called Symbiosis International University. So over there, they had an International Students Council, which organizes around 7 to 10 events per year throughout the city, not just for like the college students. So I also joined there as a cultural coordinator. I was elected to be the cultural coordinator. So I was very, very busy. Like, I used to do different activities. So I used to work on different events, and through that I found actually my lifelong friends. My closest friends are still friends I made during my council experience.
Oh, wow.
So I have friends from like South Sudan, Afghanistan, Iraq, Indonesia, and the funny thing is that we all fit in just perfectly well. Like, we are all from different places, but I think we were just incredibly lucky, because we still say like, some of them now are married with kids and stuff, but they say like Pune life was like the best life. Pune was the city where we were in. Shout out to any Punekers if you are out there. So but it's like, so they really all of us were really lucky to have one another, because our bond was very, very special. and we really helped each other during those those years where we're trying to figure things out, where we'd be broke most of the time, so always someone would chip in, and no one had to go hungry. If one of us were sad, there would be someone. One time I think I had from my college I was chosen for another show, and then I had I was the only international person, but I had 20 people, while even the locals did not have such a strong people, so many people showing up for them. So still a bond that's very special. And and also I think in Symbiosis International University we had this motto of the world is one family. Vasudeva Kutumbakam, which is in Sanskrit. So even though we all belong to different places, so we all celebrated each other's culture. We used to have at least 2 cultural shows where each dance, one dance from each country would be shown. And the funny thing is, even though it's we're all from different places, we would dance on each song and would enjoy and would see. I think when you can sit and appreciate the culture of one another, then you naturally develop that respect for one another. So I think it's an example for the world how we can all coexist. Not by trying to hide our diversity and needing to be just one uniform thing, but actually it's not a melting pot, it's a platter. It's a platter. We're a platter of cultures, and I love that concept because I think there is a lot of beauty in diversity, and I think also that's something we can learn from during the current times in Ethiopia with what's going on. I think we can definitely appreciate that. What makes Ethiopia special is that there are 89 languages and there are so many cultural dances and so I think that's the beauty, and instead of the reason for us to to drive us apart.
Yeah, for sure, I agree. So when you're going to India, was your goal to go to India, study, come back to Ethiopia and work here, or what was your goal?
So for me, it's usually I take things with one step at a time. So at the time, already going to India was a goal, and I had a couple of dreams that I wanted to accomplish during my stay in India. Okay. And I got to accomplish actually a lot of them, so I was very happy about that. But I was let's see how it goes after that. But by the end of the 5 years, I felt like I have squeezed in all the juice of whatever I could get out of India, whatever I could learn from India. Okay. So I was academically, I think it was for me to step into the next thing. I thought an education in Europe would be pivotal for a career in biotechnology, in microbiology, something in research related. I thought Europe was the best place to go, so that was my next plan, to go to Europe, mainly for academic reasons.
Oh, wow, so from Asia to Europe.
Yes.
Take us through the journey.
Oh well, so I came back to Ethiopia, and then I was looking for an opportunity in Europe, and then when I was looking through scholarship programs available, I just saw this one program in France, and I was just sold. So I did not apply for anything else. I just applied for that one. Yes, and then so I was first I passed the first round, and then the final round where we were I think around 24 people that were invited for 1 week, all expenses paid interview in Paris, so that was exciting. So I got to go there, and I got to meet the other contestants, and then at the time, so I realized there was another person more fit for the PhD, or it was for a PhD opportunity that I was looking for, but there was another person that was more likely to get it. But the people who interviewed me, they were very fond of me, so they were why don't you apply for this another master's program? Okay. So you can do a double master's in France meanwhile while applying for a PhD. So I applied for that, and luckily I got the scholarship, and then so I joined that program, and I got to go to France.
Okay. Yeah. So what would you say is some things you learned about going to France that you never knew, some different things that you never existed? For example, I hear many people going to Europe, they say they never knew they were black until
oh well. Yes,
yeah.
That's interesting. Yes. So the thing is, for example, Paris, they don't get shocked to see black people as in color, because Paris, there are a lot of black people already. Yeah. So visually, in India, actually, people get more surprised. Oh, okay. But sometimes with Ethiopians, we blend. But still, like, you know, like for them, like, but with Ethiopian, like, you know, I don't know, our look, we blend very well.
Yeah.
So I mostly got, like, they were mostly surprised for my curly hair, but no, like, just make jokes, like a few harmless jokes, but, and, or else, like, my big forehead, that was more, but I'm Ethiopian, you know, so it comes with the package. But, like, in France, so they weren't surprised to see a black person per se, but I found it, like, I think that's the first time I understood the term systemic racism, where the racism is not like illicit racism, where it's like explicit racism, where someone would just look at me and they would be like, oh my god, a black person. But the system, like in India, I found that if I followed the rules, if I did all my applications on time, if I did everything on time, and if I behaved like a decent person, then I was treated according to my character. And people judge me. Yes, people judge me based on the character. So it was based on my character. Whereas in France, I found like a lot of times where if I was if I had color and if I was a foreigner, somehow I'm not maybe trustworthy enough, or maybe somehow I'm like I would be always question marked. And also like for when it comes to how the paperwork goes and everything, even if I apply for everything on time and everything, like, they would still make everything very difficult for you, and then it would be their fault and I would have to suffer for it, but there is no consequence, and there wouldn't be any place where I can voice out my grievances. And for example, in India, when the paperwork was late, I would still be at my college studying. When my residence permit, the new one, was not ready yet, I would still be attending my classes, I would be staying in my hostel. So life went on as if like nothing. Whereas in France, there was a particular week where I was like visa-less, apartment-less, and jobless in the same day.
Oh my goodness!
Like, yes, so like
my God, say that again.
Yes.
You are visa-less.
It's like a movie. I'm like, it's like you can't make this up.
What led to that?
Well, there was like, once you finish a professional master's, you are normally allowed to have a 1-year job search visa, which you are supposed to apply for 2 months in advance, which I did. But I asked, normally you are supposed to get this kind of receipt, which is called like récépissé, just in case your new paperwork is not yet ready, it gives you guarantee meanwhile you are processing like your papers. So when I asked for that, they told me like, oh no, you still have 2 months, like we are going to give you the new one in 3 weeks, so you don't need it. But long story short, that was not how it went. They did not provide it on time, so finally when the expiry date appeared, like, so I was like, so the company, even though they want to keep me, they cannot keep me because they could be, like somebody could sue the company for keeping someone who is illegal. And for my apartment, I said I couldn't have a job, so I could not afford my apartment anymore, so I had to move out. So and then the visa was off, and then to just rectify the whole thing, it took me like 3 more months of like unnecessary, like, so those kind of things are not okay. Whereas to the contrary, in my final year in India, like my passport, like I sent it for it to be renewed, but it was so late to come from Ethiopia. It was supposed to take like 2 weeks, but it took like more than like months, like, and then, so normally with one visa in India, maximum you can stay 5 years while renewing it there itself. Otherwise, if it's 5 years, you have to come to the country of origin and renew it there. But but like I could not come because I had to finish everything from there. But I went to the police station. I told them, they knew me like because each year in those 5 years I used to go there. They are like, we know you are a good girl, so just keep giving us notifications as how things are going, but like just giving but it's okay, like you don't have to worry. Just so I actually stayed 5 years and 2 months because but so you see, like, so that is
two contradictory,
yes. So like where it would be like the interaction is also more human at the paperwork places in India. Like for example, if someone makes a mistake, if someone is yelling at me, I would yell back, like, or if they know
both face the same.
Yes. So it's very human. The interaction is more human. I'm not saying but they're not probably it's like flawless, but at least the interaction is more human. If you said like, oh, I'm gonna lose my apartment or I'm gonna lose my job, people will definitely step up and do something, like, to make sure that doesn't happen. Whereas I found like the paperwork in France, like it just was quite it was quite like frustrating to say the least.
So in France, how was the work experience?
Work was simple actually.
Oh, okay.
Work was simple. One over there, I think I would say French contracts are actually very, very good, whereas you have protection. So either you have like a contract which is called a CDD, like which is like for example, if it is a 2 months contract, so the company is obliged to keep you for those 2 months, or if it is a 5 months contract, like or else you have a CDE contract, which will even give you more benefits, like permanent contract. So normally, like as an employee, your rights are quite well protected, and generally with the work, like yeah, you do your thing. If they are happy, of course, they will extend your stay at the company. Otherwise, they will just wait for the end of the contract, and then they will have to let you go. So, but overall, work-wise, it was okay, and the salary is also decent. So it was work-wise, it was fine.
Then why did you come back?
Well, I think
for those who don't know, guys, she finally, after all this going to Asia and Europe, she decided to return to Ethiopia. And now, how many years back?
1 year.
Oh wow! Yeah.
1 year and a
1
couple
year
of
and
months.
some
Yeah.
months, yeah.
So the thing is, for me, one, I realized that I really appreciated Ethiopia and Africa a lot during my stay in France. So it was like, in a way, coming home. All the challenges make me come home to myself, like, you know, and understand also what was needed, because I found a lot of conflicting things. I think you might have encountered, like, a lot of Ethiopians are very proud, oh, we are Ethiopians, we have this, we have that, but when it comes to it, like, everyone is fleeing, like, you know, everyone is ready to flee. And I think, but it's also missing that like Africa needs us, Ethiopia needs us, like, you know, so there is a lot to be done. If you are just creative, if you think a little bit outside the box, I know, like, if you are just looking for employment, it is difficult because there is a lot of unemployment. But if you just think outside the box and more have creative pursuits, there are a lot of untapped areas, you know. So like, and if you have that passion, when people see your passion, then they are more willing to work with you. There are times where I would just sit in a cafe and we would have just an interesting conversation, and someone wants to collaborate with me on a project. Yeah. So I think if you are just looking for somebody to employ you, I think it's difficult here. But if you have actually a passion for something and people can see that, then, so I think the way we approach jobs, the way we approach career has changed a lot. And as you can see, all you need is sometimes just one phone, and then you already have a career. If you have like the passion and if you have a vision, if you have a clear vision. Okay. So I think more than anything, I think before asking like what job is profitable, what thing is profitable, I think we need to come home to ourselves and realize what makes me come alive. Not sound cliche, but what makes me come alive? What is the unique thing I can bring to the table? What would I do if I didn't need any money? If I didn't need any job, what would I do in my free time? And
what can I do for free? Yeah.
Yes, and that's where you'll find like where your calling.
Yeah, where your purpose
lies.
Is aligned,
yeah,
because it has an attachment to your passion.
Yeah, yeah, and the thing is, all the like the struggles I went through, like when I had to shift from like what you say, from science to art, where I felt more passionate. So even that period of like being lost, going through those struggles, I think I found my purpose in that also. So besides like finding Lazza and getting to do that, I felt also maybe I understand what it feels like to be young and lost, and to be young and not understand what I'm meant to do with my life. So I thought maybe that would also allow me to work with the youth here and maybe just help them figure out what their next step might be. And more than anything, I feel called to do a lot of things in Ethiopia, and I want to contribute here. And I think we have a lot of educated diaspora who can come here and contribute and do something different, bring something different to the table. So I'd like to see that more happening, and so that was what I felt more called to do, and that's why I wanted to come back. And once Lazza took off, it was easy for me to make that decision and return back.
Oh wow, so for you basically it was more about teaching Amharic and teaching language as you also teach, because you also do other cultural things, like you also do dances, India dances and stuff like this. So it was more about your passion was culture.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Wow, that's amazing. Well, that's a very big point that you said, by finding whatever it is for you that you can work with in the place that you're looking to come back to. Because I meet a lot of people, and the biggest question is normally about, when I move back or when I go to a certain country, what am I going to do? So if you're able to answer that question, maybe based on your passions and the things that you can offer to the world, then it makes maybe your moving or your returning system become easier. And wow, okay, that's interesting.